It is Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, day after St. Patrick's Day. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority, and I call this meeting to order. So, Lawrence, any letters or communications to the board?
No letters, but in the board read file, we're pretty active there. Susan's got a number of articles that relate to what's been going on, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen them anyway. But
Am I ahead of you, Susan, or? Okay. Again, this is where we start. Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, regular monthly meeting, the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority. This meeting is called to order. First, we have a member who is not physically with us, but is online. And please give us your location.
Yes, I'm attending from Sarasota, Florida.
Thank you. So, Lawrence, are there any letters of communication to the board?
no letters, but we do have quite a bit of news articles on our board read file. And I just want to bring it to your attention.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments regarding that? You've had an opportunity to see that? If not, we'll move on to the February 12th annual board meeting minutes. Have they been reviewed?
Yes, the minutes have been reviewed and everything is accurate and complete, and I would move to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the February 12th, 2026 annual board meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. I'd like a motion to amend the agenda. Move up the airline presentation from later in the agenda to allow the two individuals representing the airlines to give their presentation. And then if they need to leave, they don't have to stay around for the rest of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made to amend the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. So to get right to that, we have two airlines here. Charlie, if you would like to start us off, introduce, and maybe talk a little bit about them before they give their presentation.
Yes, so we received two bids for our Central Air Service bids. First bid we received is from SkyWest Airline, and our second bid we received from Breeze Airways with two bids. And representing SkyWest Airline is Ted. Ted will be the first one to present their presentation and their Central Air Service contract for the board to review.
Thank you. Ted, welcome.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate being here.
Oh, no, sorry.
Is there like a clicker I can use to?
She can click for you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so as you mentioned, I'm Ted Christensen with SkyWest Airlines. I want to first say thank you for having us out, being able to talk to you guys. We really appreciate it. My role at SkyWest, I'm the manager of route planning. So what that basically means is that I work with our team to plan all of our routes, all of our schedules, all of our capacity for what we call our pro-rate or our at-risk business, which is a lot of EAS contracts essentially, and then there's some additional flying that's non-EAS flying that falls under that. But that's where we're setting the routes, the schedules, the prices, basically everything that Breeze does, we just do it coded as our partners, and in this case we are bidding United, so it's United coded. So if you want to go to the next slide. So SkyWest, we say we do our business as our four partners: United, Delta, American, Alaska. So a lot of people don't typically know what SkyWest is. They just assume we're operating as these partners and we're just a small airline. But really, when we were founded in St. George, Utah, that was true. It's not true today. We have nearly 500 aircraft. Today is 2,600 departures. We'll probably get over 2,700 by the summer, over 250 cities. So to kind of put those into perspective for you, 2,700 daily departures would rank us 7th in the world in terms of largest airlines. It's 5th largest in the United States. It's even bigger than one of our own partners, Alaska Airlines. 500 aircraft. We are the largest owner operator of E175s and of CRJ200s in the entire world. 250 cities is more than any other airline in the country flies to today. So we operate in more airports than any other airline. So it is by no means a small operation. If you go to the next slide, this is where we started. You can see very much connecting EAS, or Essential Air Service markets, to the main hub in Salt Lake City in the Rocky Mountain West. And it's something that we take a lot of pride in. We still kind of feel like those are our roots today. It's connecting those small cities to the greater network for air transportation. But where we're at today, if you go to the next slide, tells a much different story, right? It's not just the Rocky Mountain West anymore. It's not a lot of stopovers. It's all, these nonstop routes from coast to coast, north to south, you name it, we cover it. We do this, like I said, for all 4 major partners. We do it out of essentially every hub that they operate, minus just, I think, Miami is maybe the only American hub that we don't touch. But, really, I like to say it looks like you gave a toddler a crayon and a map at a dining room table, and they just had fun with it, right? It's kind of all over. And so you go to the next slide. When we talk about our prorate or at-risk business, so if you were looking at that previous slide, this looks a lot different, right? It's a lot less, about 10% of our flying that falls into that category, but it's a really important part of our business. I spend my entire day working with these communities to make sure they have the optimal pricing, optimal schedules, optimal capacity, to make sure we are achieving what's best for the community to be able to utilize the air service in that community. And so we have 47 contracts. Really, it's actually 49. We were awarded 2 of them just recently, and then we have, now it's up to 5. We got another recommendation yesterday, and a couple late last week. So we'll be well over 50 EAS contracts that we hold and operate across the entire country. Again, you can see we do it out of most major hubs for our partners. We do it for American, Delta, and United. Now let's go to the next slide. So what we are proposing is the United bid. It has service to Chicago and Dulles, 2 of United's largest hubs. And we proposed it on a CRJ200, which we do have one sitting out there. Hopefully we have some time afterward, you guys can go take a look. But if you flew out of Ogdensburg when we were operating before, it's the same aircraft we were operating, still flying today. 12 weekly round trips, how that's divvied up between the hubs. It's really something we'll work with you guys on, but what I would also say that if you look at a lot of other EAS contracts where we kind of split the hubs with the service, you'll notice a lot of them have 14 round trips a week instead of 12. It helps operationally, it helps from a crew perspective, just keeping everything flying, but really it helps from a customer perspective too, to keep a very consistent schedule there every single day. They know that every day there's going to be a Chicago flight, every day there's going to be a Dulles flight. And so that's what we're proposing. Obviously, we'll work with you on what kind of works best for you guys, but that was our proposal.
12 or 14, sorry to interrupt.
So the EAS only lets us bid 12, but if you look at some other airports where we bid Chicago Dulles, they tend to operate 14 a week. So there's 2 extras that we put in there that don't fall within the EAS contract. If you go to the next slide. So with United, it is a 50-seat jet still, but what's really great about United is really kind of what we call their soft product. So it's not necessarily the aircraft, but it's kind of all the technology and the customer service that goes along with it, right? So the flight attendant, you're gonna get a flight attendant on every aircraft, that's pretty standard. But really it's like the mileage plus, right? You get mileage plus from the minute you board here in Ogdensburg to the minute you get to your destination and coming back, right? So you're gonna be able to accrue those miles really well. And you get access to what is hands down the best airline app in the entire industry. This app, I mean, you can do everything. You can book through it if you get into a situation where a flight's delayed or canceled. It gives you the rebooking accommodations right there in the app. You don't have to go wait in line to get to a customer service agent. You don't have to call somebody. They give you the options for new flights, hotels, food vouchers, everything in the app. It's really even like Google Maps style turn-by-turn directions in the app when you're at the hub. And then seamless bag transfer. So you're going to check your bag here in Ogdensburg. It's going to get to your destination. In that app, they have almost like a FedEx type tracking link where you can track your bag as it goes with you through the airport to make sure it's getting there on time. And so it really is kind of from the minute you buy your ticket to the minute you get to your destination, United does an incredible job with the soft product. And because we are a co-chair with United, we have access to all of those same tools. Next slide. Another important one we have access to is the United Business account. And so if you go to unitedbusiness.com, anybody in Ogdensburg, whether it's a small business, large business, medium size, doesn't matter, can sign up for a United Business account where they get corporate discounts, they get access to a special travel agency, they get special business credit card deals, different booking options. There's really kind of this all-encompassing holistic view of how did United help these businesses with their travel. And because we are co-chaired with United, everybody will get access to that here in Ogdensburg. And you can go to the next slide. So we're going to talk about kind of like what happens when SkyWest comes into a market and why SkyWest sees a big impact when we do come into a market. So if you go to the next slide, you're going to see really what the biggest part is that we're one of the most respected airlines in the country. We have 4 partnerships not because of the size of aircraft we have or the employees we have. It's because we're really good at what we do. We operate flights, we do it on time, we do it well, we don't cancel flights, and we do it at the top level of safety. If you remember, SkyWest, we weren't able to rebid the contract here in Ogdensburg because of the pilot shortage. And that's because our pilots are hands down the best regional pilots in the country, and our pilots were getting hired away like crazy because our 4 partners know that when they need new employees, that they need new pilots, SkyWest is the first place they go. And that's because we have top-of-the-line training, top-of-the-line culture. So if you go to the next slide. So the co-chair, I've thrown that around a little bit, but really what does a co-chair mean? It's not just the paint on the plane, it's not just access to the product, right? It's lower fares because you get a single ticket from here to your destination, right? Even though you have that stopover, it's one single ticket. It's not 2 tickets on 2 different airlines. It's not 2 tickets stitched together, right? Excuse me, it's one ticket that creates a lot of synergies. It's the airline miles behind it, it's the bag transfers. It's really important with that airline protection, right, that you guys get treated just like any other United customer, because if something happens and there's a delay and you miss your connection, that you are getting that same protection. You're getting put on the next flight with no cost to you. You're getting a meal voucher, you're getting a hotel if it's needed, you're getting transportation, whatever it is, you are protected just like every other United customer. Schedule synchronization, this is my bread and butter, right? All day, every day, I'm working with our partners to make sure we have the best schedules we possibly can. If we see that the top destinations out of Ogdensburg are to Florida or Texas or California, we're gonna make sure your schedule is set up to make that seamless connection for you guys, and you're not waiting in Chicago for 3.5 hours, or you don't miss that it's not even offered because the connection's not there. So schedule synchronization, we're meeting with them weekly. I'm looking at it daily. And then parking and mainline gates, that's a big one, right? With Chicago, there's a lot of fighting going on over gates there. We get access to priority gating with United because we are a United flight. It's not a SkyWest flight to them, it's a United flight. And then amenities, this is one that a lot of people like, is just the lounge access. So say you have the credit card or you buy a first class ticket, or you sign up for the mileage and you accrue a lot of miles, you can get that lounge access. Also, it's not just United you're getting access to, it's all of the star lines, right? So if you're traveling internationally, every single one of these airlines is an option to you. One single ticket, seamless connectivity, same bag transfers, same mileage, it all works together. You can go to the next slide. This one, I won't spend too much time on this one. This is, again, just kind of what co-chair versus interline does. Usually we tend to talk about this more when, say, like Contour's bidding, because they'll sell an interline. Breeze doesn't really have any airlines, so it's not super applicable. But really just kind of visually, you see there's a lot of green there in that co-chair. That's just because it's a much stronger tool than an interline, just in terms of connectivity and usability. And so all of that said, if you go to the next slide, we also have high top line performance, right? So 7,800 flights, almost 871,000 flights, sorry, for the year 2025. Total completion, 98.6%. That's raw completion. That includes uncontrollable cancels. So weather, ATC, things that are outside of our control, we were still completing 98.6. Take those out, we were at 99.97%. Less than 2,000 flights over the course of the year. When you're operating 871, that's pretty impressive performance. So if we go to the next slide, combine all that together, combine the code share, combine our operational reliability, combine everything that we talked about. When SkyWest comes into a market, you can see in Sheridan, so in 2019, they were doing about 10,000 passengers a year. SkyWest comes in, 2020 with COVID, we stayed flat, which is really pretty impressive actually when you talk about COVID and the impact it had on the travel industry. Year end 2024, they were at 28,500-ish passengers. So you can see that the performance in Sheridan just grew drastically, and that's mainly because of all these benefits we're talking about. Victoria, Texas, this one they were doing 5,600 before SkyWest came in. Year end 24, 13,000. Again, a really big jump, but this one is more, you see 13,000, that's now speaks to 28,000, but really what's unique about Victoria is about an hour and a half from Houston itself. So one of the biggest hubs in the nation. They are so close that it really, like, if you're an hour from Houston, why would you not just drive down the road and catch a nonstop flight, right? But because of the code share, because of the schedules, the capacity, the ease of use, we've been able to get people to stop driving that short flight and use their local airport, right? And so this really kind of just speaks to how good the product can be and how usable it is. If we can get people to just stop driving even a short distance, an hour, what can we do in a market like Ogdensburg, where it's 2.5, 3 hours to the next biggest airport, right? Moab is a very interesting case. So they were with Boutique, they went to SkyWest, saw a 200% increase in their enplanements. They went away from SkyWest and they saw an immediate drop, right? And so, so there is, even when you see SkyWest come in and then immediately leave, there is that drop off just because the product is just not as good. Kearney, Nebraska, they had SkyWest, went away from SkyWest, saw an immediate impact. SkyWest came back into the market and they immediately saw a rebound in the traffic. One thing I like to point out to Kearney is that it is EAS. They have 3 flights a day, though. They're doing 21 flights a week. So there's a whole extra flight every day that's unsubsidized. I want that to be said because when we see capacity needed in a market, even if it's in the EAS market, we're not afraid to add that capacity if it's needed, right? And so I know one thing that's going to be a kind of a topic of discussion is the size of the aircraft, making sure there's enough seats for people to use. Just because we have a 50-seat jet does not mean that we're not afraid to put capacity into a market if it's needed. Now, all of these markets combined, it's a different jump from a interline 135 carrier to SkyWest, right? So what about when you're going from, say, Breeze to SkyWest? What does that look like? If you go to the next slide, so if you go 2 more, sorry, I think they jumped out of order, but 1 more. So the closest one we have, excuse me, is Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They had Sun Country, which is pretty similar to Breeze, right? A lower cost carrier that goes somewhat point to point to these more leisure destinations, offer more leisure connectivity. We took over Eau Claire, and in the first year, we did see about an 8% increase in passengers. So that's pretty good, especially when you kind of look at the seat difference. So they were at 85,000 seats roughly a year. We were at 62. So the load factor went up, even though the aircraft was smaller. So it's not that the community saw a smaller airplane and was afraid. They saw better connectivity and actually could use the airport in a better way. 2026 and year end, so for the 3.5 months we have now, if we extrapolate that out, apply our forecast to it, they'll look at about almost 50,000 passengers this year, so about a 29% increase. So it is pretty substantial when you talk about the connectivity. And those people were going to a lot of leisure destinations like Vegas, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, and those were direct flights. And so when we're able to, pull people who were using those direct flights back to SkyWest, even though they have to make a connection, just because of the ease of connectivity, it's a lot better. And that's really driven by things like this. So this was Ogdensburg's top 15 destinations when SkyWest was operating previously. A lot of them still hold today, right? Orlando, Tampa, Fort Myers, LA, Jacksonville, Fort Lauderdale. When you look at Breeze and the connectivity they have over Raleigh-Durham, you'll get some of these, but not daily. That's a very big key, right? So it's only going to be on certain days, and so you have to adjust your travel plans around that. Some of them are daily. Orlando, Tampa, they have 2 a day. Fort Myers, Raleigh, Durham, Jacksonville would be daily, but the rest of these would have no daily nonstops out of Raleigh, Durham. If you look at United out of Chicago and Dulles, Orlando's going to have 11 round trips, Tampa 6, Denver 22, San Francisco 20, Newark 18. You're getting a bunch of frequency, right? And what that does is it provides schedule depth. And so what that means, people can adjust their schedule to what they want to fly, not when they have to fly. So if somebody needs to go catch a meeting tomorrow, they don't have to leave today, connect to Raleigh, Durham, stay the night. They can go that day and still make the meeting. Or if they want to leave for vacation on Saturday instead of Friday, they can do that because there are all these trip options available. Another thing is reliability. If you get your flight canceled on Breeze and you miss one of those Orlando flights, you may have already come in ahead of the other one and you have no option to get to Orlando that day. Now you have to wait for tomorrow. If a flight disruption happens, you have 10 other options to get to Orlando that day. So the ability to still get to your destination same day is a big driver, right? What Breeze is going to say though is that, they have a hub in Raleigh, Durham. There's connectivity in Raleigh, Durham. This kind of cuts it off a little bit, but Raleigh, Durham has about 6,700 yearly departures. Compared to that to Chicago and Dulles, Dulles has almost 100,000, Chicago's at 250,000 daily or yearly departures, right? Like when you talk about a hub and the connectivity a hub gives you, it's substantially larger in terms of the amount of connectivity you have. And so if you go back one slide, this is a EAS market we operate today, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, that has a similar setup to what we did here, Dulles and Chicago. This is every destination that their schedule offers. Not every destination offered out of Chicago or Dulles. This is what they legitimately have access to every single day. You can see, and I'll note specifically Florida, because I know it's going to be a big driver here in Ogdensburg. Every airport in Florida is offered there outside of Tallahassee, which is not in the top 50 destinations for Ogdensburg. But you look, even, West Coast, like all the major West Coasts there, all the Mountain West that you want is there. They connect to coast, north to south, and internationally. And this is what they legitimately have access to. If you go back one more slide, these are all the nonstops out of Raleigh, Durham. Pretty good amount of nonstops, but again, it's not daily. These are the daily flights out of Raleigh, Durham. Now, if you have one flight a day and they time it perfectly to catch what they want you guys to catch, primarily Florida, the green routes are what you're going to have access to every single day. That's it. So it's a big drop off in terms of what we see on the next slide. So go one more slide forward. So what Johnstown has versus what you would be offered out of Raleigh, Durham, it's a big difference, right? And so we can see that there is the concern for the smaller aircraft, right? It's only 50 seats as opposed to 100 and some odd seats on the A220. But really, it's this that's going to drive your enplanements. It's the ability to use the airport when you want to go where you want to. And that's what Chicago and Dulles on United have to offer. So if you go forward again, one more. And so the economic impact, it's going to be substantial, right? You're going to see more people using the airport. There's going to be more tourism in here for people who want to explore the outdoors here. It's going to help with healthcare, people wanting to get maybe downstate for health, higher education, people wanting to, bring professors in or send professors out, whatever it is. People are going to have that air connectivity and they're going to be able to use it as opposed to having to drive to Syracuse or Burlington or Watertown or whatever it is. So the economic impact is going to be pretty substantial. If you go to the next slide. We're going to dedicate $25,000 to marketing. It's $25,000, but really what's going to sell the product is word of mouth, right? The people in the community who use it, who say, hey, this is reliable. I can use it whenever I want. I can go wherever I want. You're going to hear it from your friend. You're going to trust it more than you would trust an ad in the paper or on the radio or whatever it is. And that's what's really going to sell the product is the reliability and the usability of the air service. And so I'm going to leave it there. That's the end of the presentation. I'm going to leave it open to a lot of questions, which I'm sure there are. I hope there are. But hopefully we could inform you a little bit on what makes SkyWest a really great product for Ogdensburg.
Dave?
What would be some of your projections with the airport and how many people were flying or could fly and why?
Yeah, so without giving a specific number, we project Ogdensburg to really be kind of in the top third of EAS communities. That top third really tends to be communities that are pushing like 25,000+ people through their airport a year. And in terms of enplanements, that's not trip passengers. But we would project you guys in the top third. We saw what was here before when we were operating. We know that there's only been growth in the area. And so we see that there is really substantial growth that could be had here in Ogdensburg. So we would project you guys in that top third of EAS communities.
And you say growth meaning what? Growth in business or growth in people? You say there's been growth here.
Yeah, so just kind of, nationally GDP grows, which means business growth, which there's population growth, right? And so just naturally, we see over time community and air travel gets larger in communities. And then there's never been really a more accessible time for people to fly in America. In terms of fares are up, right, even with inflation, but people have more ability to fly than ever before. They have more income available to go fly than ever before. So there's just more availability within the economy for people to go fly.
Good for a minute.
Megan?
So understanding that this is starting out as an EAS bid, does SkyWest ever expand into like starting direct flights? Understanding that Ogdensburg really does focus on recreational Florida travel. I mean, would it ever be an option for SkyWest to do direct from Ogdensburg to Florida? Or is that not?
So under the United code, that doesn't necessarily make sense. So United gives us the opportunity to fly to their hubs. And since they don't have a hub in Florida, it doesn't work super well. We do have an entity called SkyWest Charter that operates under 135 rules. So similar to Contour, Denver Air Connect, where we have a lot more flexibility, right? Because we're not under a code share, we can fly that to wherever we want. So if that's something that we see the community really interested in and they want to explore that option, we can certainly explore that option using SkyWest Charter.
Anything else? Jen?
No, I don't have any questions at this time, but thank you.
Oh, throwing it back at me. Ted, in the slide presentation, it mentions morning and afternoon. Morning and afternoon, to me, may mean one thing. What exactly, can you give us a closer approximation of what time of the morning or what time of the afternoon that flights would come in or go out?
Yeah, so we haven't really penciled it out, but off the top of my head, what I kind of envision is something similar to our Johnstown schedule where they get into Dulles first. That'd be the first destination. Leaving here, flight time is probably an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes if I had to guess. So you're going to get in probably around 10 o'clock, which would mean, same time zone, so 8:30, 8:15 departure in the morning. And so you get into Dulles in time to catch their direct southbound bank, which connects to all of Florida into the southeast. Then you turn out of Dulles at that same time. So that'd be kind of like a 12-ish, 12:30 departure. So just estimate another 2 hours and say 2:30 arrival here in the afternoon, and then you turn to Chicago. Hopefully get in there at about 5 o'clock in time to catch all the westbound stuff going that way, and then you'd come back out at 8 o'clock in the evening, which would allow for all the West Coast coming back into Chicago to connect into Ogdensburg, and you're getting here at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It's just kind of what I have off the top of my head without really penciling it out. Obviously, those times can be adjusted. Just kind of quick thought process.
So we would come back in here 10:30, 11 at night. So the aircraft would be here overnight.
Correct.
I believe that's the same as it was last time, wasn't it? Pretty much.
That'd be around, yeah. Remain overnight.
And we
So-
want to run in the market. Runs outperform 2 daily, like when we call them inside turns, but where it comes from the hub turns back around, goes back to the hub, doesn't stay overnight. When the aircraft stays overnight, those markets outperform other markets by leaps and bounds just because people in the community have that chance to get on that first flight out and go do whatever they need to that day.
Right. What, I'm trying to understand exactly in your proposal, it says you would provide flights to Chicago O'Hare, ORD, and/or Washington Dulles. So exactly, how many go to Chicago and how many go to IAD?
Yeah, so that's a really great call out, that and/or. We put that in when we do 2 hub operations, because what that does is it provides us flexibility. So if we decide that you guys want to only focus on Chicago after the first month, we can do that and do 2 flights a day to Chicago. And we don't have to go to the DOT, ask for a service pattern change for anything like that, right? Because we said and/or. Or same with Dulles. If you guys decide that you want to do 2 to Dulles, we could do that. Or it provides us the opportunity that we could do 10 to Chicago and 2 to Dulles if we wanted, or we could do 10 to Dulles and 2 to Chicago. There's no specific call out because we want the schedule to reflect the community needs. And so that and/or provides us that flexibility. And you'll notice in our bid, we never actually put numbers behind the round trips because we want you guys to have the flexibility, and we want to have the flexibility to do what works best for the community.
So who is making that ultimate decision?
So that's typically falls to my team, where we would decide that, give you guys our recommendation, make sure as a board you guys like the idea. We don't want to implement anything without you guys knowing about it or having a say in it, because the last thing we want to do is give you a schedule you don't like. So yeah, so that's typically my team that's vetting all the data, vetting all the connectivity, and then putting that into action and then coming to you guys with the recommendation.
Well, actually, the last time SkyWest was here, that's exactly what happened. We were building, airline or trips to Chicago, which is very popular, or IAD, and then all of a sudden, the next time it was bid, we dropped Chicago without us knowing it. You didn't.
Right.
The company did. I know you, I don't even know if you were there then. But it's that if a lot want to go to Chicago, and if we're marketing a certain group, building that up, and then it changes without our input, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I would say SkyWest pre-pilot shortage, pre-COVID, I will readily admit, I was not in this position at that time. I will admit there was a problem with community engagement and community relations in that period, right? That has changed drastically now, right? We know this is a partnership and we want this to be a fruitful partnership. And so we do everything we can in our power to make sure we build that relationship, that there is that open line of communication. And so we work hand in hand with you guys in that today. And that's been a very big push at SkyWest.
So, ballpark figure, fare-wise for either Chicago or Washington, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so what we do, I can't give you an exact number because I'm not a pricing guy, right? I don't do that. And so, but what I can tell you the process is that our pricing team goes and looks at a nearby airport with similar service. My gut tells me they would probably look at either Syracuse or Watertown, and they would essentially copy the fares from that to make sure they're competitive. So that way we're not overselling guys, and people are going to drive to Watertown or Syracuse or wherever it is. We want the fares to be competitive. So we tend to look at nearby airports and proxy off that.
You'd be better off looking at Watertown and Plattsburgh.
Right, and that's what my assumption is, but I don't want to speak for them.
Because they're North Country.
Right.
Syracuse is central New York.
Okay.
They're a lot different than we are,
Okay.
just to let you know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I've not been to upstate New York much in my life, so it's been nice to be here.
Well, nice to have you. And any other questions? Charlie, anything else?
Yeah, Ted, I got one question. So you brought up the Chicago issues. So I'm sure you're aware with FAA slashing operations there. We're, from what I'm seeing, it's roughly 20% that we slash over in Chicago over the summer for operations. I guess with EAS not being priority on the list for Chicago, what would, how would SkyWest promise that, we would not lose Chicago again back in what we were before?
Right.
Same thing.
So the first thing I'd say is the 20% number is what the FAA thinks they want to do. There are actually meetings, United and American are having meetings tomorrow with the FAA to talk the government off that ledge.
Yeah.
But, all that aside, we work with United. Every 2 weeks, we have a meeting with United to go over these EAS markets and what they want us to bid, what we want to bid, what they can guarantee us, right? And Ogdensburg was a conversation, right? When we had that, we're like, hey, with Chicago, with gating, with everything going on, right? Like, is this okay to bid? Do you guys want this on your route map? And they said yes, right? And so what I would say is United does not give out that yes lightly. It's something they think about very in depth. They do a lot of data analytics. They are very particular about what airports are being put on their route map. They do not go into markets to just pull out of markets. That's not what we like to do either. And so they said yes, and when they say yes, they mean yes. The EAS contract calls for Chicago and Dulles, and they will honor that. So I'm not sure what kind of promise, I guess, I can make other than, we would fulfill this obligation, and United has said that they will fulfill that obligation, right? And so we have no inclination that that would ever be a problem with United. And I will add to that, all of our other EAS markets today have not been touched. One bit has not been a conversation with United to cut any of our Chicago flying with our EAS markets at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? I remember when SkyWest was here, they generally were here when they were supposed to. And things went pretty well until my sister flew out, and it was in the wintertime, and they had to put spray the plane.
The ice.
The ice hit, and the truck hit the wing of the plane. No damage to the plane, but
I don't think
she reminds me of that all the time.
I don't think you can put that on them.
That's like, I know part of this.
Yes, I don't think that's on Ted.
Things do happen. Ted, thanks for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate that. Thank you for the presentation and answering our questions.
Absolutely.
We appreciate the fact that SkyWest thought of us and put in a bid, and we'll just see what happens.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, Sam, you guys want to look at the plane?
Yeah, there is a plane up there if you want to look at it. Like I mentioned, it's the same plane that was here before, so wouldn't hurt my feelings if you said no, because you guys have probably flown it all.
Yeah, we've got quite an agenda.
I don't blame you.
I think everybody here has flown
Seen
one
it,
time.
SkyWest, yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Was it just you that came on it? That's nice.
Yeah, so
To pick out his own seat.
yeah, maybe a quick plug, right? Like that's, when we say we have 500 aircraft in our fleet, 150 of those are CRJ 200s. I know that kind of sounds like an arbitrary number, just 150 of them, but we have so many CRJ 200s in our fleet that we have more spare CRJ 200s in our operation than most airlines have airplanes, period. And so to be able to pull one off the line like this is not a huge deal for our operation. And so it really helps in terms of reliability, right? When we have that many spares in Chicago and Dulles, so we can just switch one out if there's a maintenance or a crew issue or whatever it is, right? If the plane's just running late, we can flip them out. We have these spare aircraft sitting around, so. Yeah, it was nice to have a nice quiet ride on it.
That's the most used on 1A.
I got to do my own catering, so I wasn't stingy.
Got to balance the plane, get the bag.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I thank you guys again for having me out, so.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Have Eric come in.
Yeah, I'll grab Eric.
No, it's okay.
was it nasty?
Knock 'em out.
I'm still afraid to talk about it. You can hide it.
You can hide it. It'll be all right.
Don't have to go through TSA. I know who that woman is out there. She was gonna come in or what?
Where did he come from? Just out of curiosity.
I think he came right from west, didn't he? Out west?
Chicago or something?
Well, no, I thought it was Utah.
Really? Chicago.
I thought that's what he said. When we were out there talking. Is that where Eric came from today too? Did he start out from there?
Just like.
Jump on the plane.
Yeah, I know it's well. I think we even get to see him take off.
Yeah.
Larry giving out his presentation.
Should we put out a plug for the Chevy dealership if they're watching? Say, well, I'm great. They treated me so far.
Well, AAA.
Quick
The
public
AAA guy is
advertising
great.
for
Yeah, AAA.
AAA and the Chevy dealership. Yeah, this meeting is brought to you by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today's quorum
It's
is brought
awesome
to
when
you
somebody
by.
comes and retrieves you out of the ditch. Doesn't matter who it is. It's just awesome.
Hello. Well, next presentation we have, it's Breeze Airway with Eric. Eric Fletcher's with Breeze Airway.
Yeah, instead of speaking, I'm gonna do an interpretive dance. 'Cause, you know, I think that's more appropriate here.
Irish step dance,
Harry Step?
Oh, of course, my bread and butter.
St. Patrick's Day.
Is it did right?
Oh.
All right.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Then go to. OGS in person.
The two Jens still with us?
Yes, two sensors.
That's it. Am I up? Yep. All right, so I was just here giving an update on how we were doing in the market not too long ago. When was that? 6 weeks ago? 2 months? So some of the slides are similar, but there are updates. And again, any questions you have, anything that doesn't make sense, shout out, say, what are you talking about? Explain this better. Happy to do that. My favorite thing is you just had a woman come into the lobby there while I was waiting.
Wants to
And she
buy a
said,
ticket.
I'm trying to buy a Breeze ticket. Can someone help me? I'm having some problems with the website. And I wanted to call all of you out here and say, look, willing customer.
So Eric's that pay actress.
And she was having some tech issues. She couldn't figure out how to log in. So hopefully I helped her solve it. All right, we can go to slide 2.
Did you pay her to come here?
That's what I told Charlie. I said, look, and I said it to my Sky West friend. I said, did you see the paid actress here?
Wait a second.
It's tricky. Okay. Sorry, here I thought I was helping by putting in a PDF instead of the PowerPoint and I broke it. I apologize. All right, so just to give some quick update on Breeze as a whole, as a company, there have been rumors in the budget airline space with some airlines struggling, going out of business. There's been bankruptcies, and the reason I include this slide, because Breeze, even as a new carrier, things are going really, really well. We're now flying to 87 cities across North America, 4 countries. We just announced another new one this week, Costa Rica. So from the United States, we have the Dominican Republic, we have Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, Nassau, Bahamas, San Jose, Costa Rica, and Cancun, Mexico. All right, so flight carrier, that means you're certified to fly internationally. Financials, we're just really proud of the fact we've hit profitability, and we're also really proud of the fact that we've still been profitable in spite of recent fuel spikes. So that's a good thing. We're hoping the revenue continues. Reliability, we talked a little bit about these numbers last time, and I'll go into them in more detail, but they're a very positive story there. And fully complete the entire fleet now, high-speed Wi-Fi. So We can go to the next slide. We can actually go 2 slides down. Next one's just kind of another, you can go to 4.
4.
Yeah, next one, the slide 3 just says performance update. All right, so we talked about this last time. This is our forecast of total passengers through this airport in the year, because our goal is to maximize passengers, to utilize this beautiful facility as much as possible. You look at the 2023 total, 5,700, 2024, 61. Breeze's first year, full year, 2025, it finished at 16,000. This year, 28,000, and in 2027, I'll run through some trends of even what we're seeing in the coming months, and you can see if ultimately I'll give you a future passenger total if Breeze is to win the contract in 2027, and you can see if you agree with our projections or not based on what we're seeing. All right, we go to slide 5. Oh, sorry. Before we go into the projections of passengers, we wanted to brag again about percentage of flights completed. You can scroll down a little bit more. You can see in 2023 on the other airline, 2024 the other airline versus Breeze. This is percentage of flights that get completed that don't get canceled for whatever reason, whether that's a blizzard or just the plane breaks down. Breeze completing 98.3% of all of our flights versus what Ogdensburg had specifically at 74 and 72%. All right. All right, on-time performance, we went over this. These numbers are now official. You can look this up and confirm with the DOT. Of all the big airlines, that is Breeze for the 4th quarter of 2025 in first place, most on time of any airline. Hopefully that continues for us. We're proud of that. We're not perfect, but we definitely have invested a lot to continue that. Let's try to make that a regular thing, and hopefully you see that here in Ogdensburg, not just in the rest of our network. And we had some late flights due to huge thunderstorms in Florida airports earlier this week. That was less than ideal, but it was everyone down there. All right, next slide. Oh.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Okay, so.
This is not right.
It's my fault. I overthought it. I should have sent the PowerPoint instead of PDF.
There's a delay in this issue.
Okay, well, the next 2 slides are the ones I'm really excited about. And I'll have to explain them because they're a little bit nerdy. We have a new analyst that we got out of Stanford, and he's very bright, but he has to translate things down to my language. All right, so this is the breakdown. We kind of talked about this, and so we'll go over this, and then I'm going to show updates on these projections. We started here last time. So you can see percentage of passengers that flew to the EAS destination in blue, and then the pink or red, depending on how you interpret that color, is the percentage that's connecting on. So when you can see with Cape Air, there was an average of 12.9 passengers a day, and you can see, probably about a 60-40 split. SkyWest, 2019 through 2022, they averaged 24.8 passengers a day across their multiple flights, and they had, it's probably about 75% of the passengers connecting on elsewhere. The advantage of SkyWest, again, is the global connectivity, the thing that they will offer on the biggest airlines of the world. Contour, similar type of thing. You could see with their average 2022 through 2024. And then Breeze here is broken up. So pre-RDU, when it was just the Washington DC flights exclusively, we were averaging 28 passengers a day, and that's about 2 to 5% that was connecting only. We swapped, when was it, Charlie? September? Sure. September last year, and having 3 days a week of RDU. And the thing I want to say with RDU, the 3 days we were able to swap to are generally the lowest 3 travel days of the week. So keep in mind, these RDU numbers are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday flights, and the majority of trips, if you think, when did you start your vacation? Thursday, Friday, Sunday, or when did you start your business trip? Monday. Those 4 days are the days that are missing from the RDU flights, but even with the less than ideal RDU schedule, we have been averaging 52 passengers a flight, and that is about 20% of the passengers connecting on from RDU to one of our other destinations. So that was through February, these numbers. So now the next slide is what we've seen in March and what we're booked to and think is a very conservative forecast that you will see in the coming months. So looking here, we can see March. This is the majority of this is what we have now. The Dulles flights have grown. We're averaging 43 passengers in every one of those. We're still at the 2 to 5% connecting. You remember 2 years ago when we were here, we had the handshake deal with United Airlines that said we're going to let you interline with us and offer the connections from there. Again, we apologize. That handshake deal was never memorialized. United said, Breeze is growing big. We don't want to help develop a future competitor, so we're backing out of that. And that is what, Dulles, you can see DC has some demand on its own, but we didn't have the connectivity to go through there. So what we've decided to do is we're building out our own RDU hub. And what it lacks in connectivity, we think is, we're starting to see it really work. So in March alone, the RDU flights, you're going to average 93.2 passengers on every single one. And that's about 66% of all the passengers are breezing through or connecting on to another destination. April, going up even a little bit further. And you can even see the DC flights going up a little bit as well. So March through June, the months that we have significant booking data in, you can see on the RDU flights. Remember, once again, the less than ideal, the lower propensity to travel days, we're averaging 90 passengers on every single flight. And so then just a quick forecast of total passengers per month, we're getting over 4,000 per month. And if you want to do the math, let's say we can average 4,000 per month for all 12 months of the year. Someone better at math than me, you can see if this continues, we're definitely going to beat that 28,000 per year estimate that I give. And once again, the caveat I want to say, this was conservative. This is just the less booking days. Once we add it in, our new proposal, I'll go over it again in detail, we'll have the connectivity via Raleigh 7 days a week instead of the lesser just 3 days a week. We think the passenger totals could dramatically increase in 2027 alone. And this isn't even counting the potential of outside of EAS at-risk flying. When we're talking about the potential of this facility, Ogdensburg is not like most other EAS markets because you have the million-person behemoth of Ottawa that can be developed to bring in to develop and fully utilize this facility. Okay, any questions on that? I know I went through a lot.
We'll move on.
Sorry.
So looking at IAD versus RDU, even in June, we're not even at 50% load, are we, for IAD?
Nope. That's about 35% of 137 seats is the full capacity of the plane.
So we're about 75% RDU for each month, period. So from your proposal, I can see with the figures that you have there, why you're proposing what you are. And it makes sense because of the figures right there.
Yeah, and we can go into it in a little bit more detail, and I'll talk about even some nuances of the proposal that could be better in 2027 that aren't available today in 2026. With our proposal, again, for those of you that don't know, is one daily flight. We target it in the middle of the day to and from Raleigh-Durham. Oh, my friend just left. All right, you could, are you ready to scroll?
I'm fine.
Okay, yeah. Don't worry, this is the last slide.
The people that are using that for their final destination are more in Dulles.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
RDU is a pass-through.
right.
Got it. All right, so yeah, then we can go to the last one. Perfect, okay, so here is our proposal. So first off, Raleigh-Durham. We started flying to Raleigh as an airline about between 2.5 and 3 years ago. Since then, we're now at 40 different destinations out of Raleigh that we've announced or are flying today. We today only have connections going through to about 16 of them. Some of them that we, you say, well, if you fly to 40, why not? One, because it's the Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, it doesn't line up with them. We'd connect to more. And then also some of them, we have flights to Syracuse And do we really want to fly Ogdensburg down to Raleigh and connect back to Syracuse? You know, unless you're just trying to take the kids on a plane ride. That's not something we see a lot of utility in turning on and selling. So of the 40, we actually would probably plan to turn on probably 25, 26 immediately at the start of the contract. We have future interlines coming, but we do not want to overpromise there. We have one deal signed. It's in a matter of rolling out with Alaska Airlines. The only one that will add is daily connections to Seattle. That's one piece. And then we have international that I don't want to guarantee because it's on Alaska, but we have signed the deal this time. It's not just a handshake, but it's in the IT rollout phase. So in theory, that one's coming first. But we're building out the connections. We're expecting to add 10 more new Raleigh cities next year that will connect. You should see some of the big cities on the West Coast coming. The benefit also, again, with coming to the prime schedule, we are building the schedule so we will have ideal connectivity to the big Florida destinations. So Lauderdale, Orlando, Tampa, and Fort Myers, you should have daily connections going both ways. So to those, you can leave, you know, some of the connections now are kind of wonky when you try to book on Breeze and it's, oh, you can get there, but it's a 14-hour stay overnight in Raleigh. And to the big destinations that this is largely targeted to, the big Floridas, you will not have to do that. You'll have the daily connectivity because we're building out. The one caveat is Raleigh to Fort Lauderdale, that's the one we're adding. That wouldn't be available at the time of contract. That would come in Q1 27. So this new contract would start, was it October this year? If Breeze was selected, you wouldn't see the Raleigh Lauderdale connections and Breeze throughs turn on until early part in the first quarter. But what we would want to do is the Breeze through product is where you go through Raleigh, but you stay sitting on the plane and the plane leaves 40 minutes later. Right now, we operate Breeze throughs down to Orlando on those days of week. For the 7 days, we would stagger, and we talked about this a little bit last time, what the Breeze throughs are. Our thought is 3 days a week, it's a Breeze through to Orlando, 2 times to Fort Lauderdale, and 2 times to Fort Myers or Tampa. Our thought is we'd put in Fort Myers first. If this group was interested in Tampa instead, we could swap that. What our actual thought would probably be at the very beginning is to do Orlando 3, Tampa 2, Fort Myers 2 on the Breeze through. And then when Fort Lauderdale comes in, pivot either Tampa or Fort Myers to the Fort Lauderdale Breeze through. And then the last thing I wanted to do, and we don't have to do it, I was going to go to Google Flight and just pull up our fare calendar and flip through month by month so you can see what the average Breeze fares are and then compare them to the fares in SkyWest markets. The difference is it's already been a long meeting for you. We don't have to go through. And I think you guys can go price Breeze flights. A huge advantage of Breeze is we control the pricing on the overwhelming majority of these. And I think you've seen the pricing power of a bigger plane. When you have a bigger plane with 137 seats, you can be more efficient than my friend on his, where he's the sole passenger today. You can get those $100 fares to Florida. We can charge $114 and we can be profitable at that. We can build long-term viability out of this. And our goal with the airport long-term, and you know, discuss with Charlie, is to grow out of the EAS program. We want to use it as a springboard for more at-risk flying. Right now, this time of year, we're doing our nonstop direct flights to Orlando, and they're doing well, even in spite of the Canadian economy being depressed. U.S.-Canada relations, unfortunately, haven't gotten any better in the last 6 weeks. But the goal is by staggering the Breeze throughs and trying out, if we're seeing lots of Breeze throughs and lots of connections to Fort Lauderdale, then that one immediately makes sense to do as the next nonstop in season. And so that's kind of our vision. We look at what Allegiant did as the nonstops. We talked a little bit last time about just kind of a proxy of the numbers and the fares Allegiant got and how that would work for Breeze on our slightly smaller planes than Allegiant. And we're still incredibly optimistic, and we're pleased that in spite of what we lack in global connectivity, we're starting to really build out of Raleigh. And I think you can see sheer volume already connecting through there. The local residents in this area are starting to use it. Again, went to another restaurant and lunch here today, and the chef came out of the kitchen to talk about Breeze. So what questions does this group have? Chef did, true story again.
Was it Wimpy's?
Was it?
He got all the pay extras. I don't know where you get them from.
I know, I wanted her to stay and come into the meeting. I was like, hey, come, I'll help you in here with this group. What questions? What did I miss?
Jen?
Sorry, say that again? Oh, sorry.
Jen, questions?
Yeah, no, the presentation was really thorough. Thank you, Eric. At this moment, I don't have any questions, but maybe come back to me. Thanks.
Megan?
Second tab.
Yeah, no, I think between last month and this month, I'm good.
I know a lot of it was the same.
No,
Sorry
I
for making you listen to me
appreciate
twice.
it. No, I appreciate it. It was very thorough.
Dave?
Just maybe a comment. The connections are tough in Raleigh.
Well, I will say,
I
they're
just wanted
really,
to-
they will be better, but they are still not gonna be SkyWest level of connectivity. That's the sacrifice with ours. It's getting better. There will absolutely be better than the 14-hour sit to go to Provo, Utah, some of the random ones that we're able to turn on. So I know, we're getting some of them. That's the 5% going through Dulles. I just think it shows the real potential of this market when you have low fares. Once we get more and more connections, we can absolutely turn it on. The people here, and the Canadians especially, they're hungry for bargain fares, and they're not gonna come across the border for $450 a person, but they will when you can get it for $150.
And connections west from a business standpoint, Amtrak and I think matter. So hopefully you're trying to, I mean, I realize Florida's, everybody wants to go to Florida, but that doesn't happen every week from everybody either. That thing.
Hey, you don't get an every other week off in Florida?
I'd like to go every week.
Well, we all get that at Breeze, you know? We agree, and
So hopefully you're working on building that.
hey, we are. It's actually kind of funny, the call I just missed on my phone was the Raleigh Airport. And it's so funny you're talking about West Connections, because we have Orange County out of there, we have Las Vegas, and they're wanting to talk to us about some other West Coast ones. Yeah, it's like I should have put it on speakerphone and said, hey, David, what did you want to talk about? And no guarantees or promises there, but absolutely working on that. And that's what some of the other interline partners hopefully are as well. But again, that one's a bit of a risk that we're asking this group to trust Breeze a little bit, that we're trying to build it out further because it is not fully available today.
I love flying your airline, by the way, too. So.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping me in a job again. Like I said that last time.
You good?
I'm good.
I'd really like to go to Denver. I have to go to Providence to get to Denver. That's the only direct.
Hey, you can always buy 2 tickets out of Raleigh, which is a pain, I know. But sadly, it's what I have to do at times too.
I'm actually out here quite a little bit. And so I hear people talk, and they're very pleased with Breeze, the service. A lot of times, Charlie got me hooked on the app, so when the weather's bad, I have to see if the plane's coming in or not.
Sam knows all about the airport.
You got a little flight aware?
He knows about everything.
So I had to come out and make sure it's gonna land, and I've been surprised, pleasantly surprised, that it lands, like you said, 90-some% of the time.
The bigger planes also have some navigational aids that the smaller planes don't always have.
No, Charlie tells me it's him and his crew. That
Oh,
we're the
boy.
ones
See,
that-
now you're selling it. See, we're selling 2 different products.
You're the one out there de-icing everything. Thanks for brushing the runway off.
Thank you.
At 3 a.m. ahead of the flight.
And you've, in your proposal, you listed the times, and we asked the question before, the schedule works well, I think, for passengers, and it works well for the airport. Charlie's crew, that they're not out there necessarily at 3 or 4 in the morning. So when your flights come in, the runway's clear. the airport is ready to go. So it seems to work out pretty well. And I see you haven't changed the schedule. And
Well, one of the things we tried, we've done experiments with you with different scheduled times, and we'd want to say we'd be the same. We like the midday because you can connect in the morning and the night banks that we'll have to give same day back and forth, which is why we would propose staying in the middle. But again, if, this group wanted to, we did some little experiments here and there with dullest flights. Oh, let's try these a couple days a week later. And for the most part, I think connectivity is good and the right destination is what's going to move the most volume. So yeah, long story short, our thought would be to keep them the same in the midday.
so the thought, I guess, from Breeze is because of the lower load factor on IAD, it makes sense from a business standpoint. And for us, looking to grow the passengers out of here, that in order to have more flights connection out of RDU, we're going to lose the IAD.
Yep, that is another negative being proposed.
Okay. Charlie?
Well, Eric, I guess they kind of hit on it a little bit. So for your schedule frequency limit for one flight a day, what can you guys do to maximize the passenger load factors on one flight a day on your 137-seat Airbus?
Man, you took my answer. I was gonna say, let's load it up with 137 seats. So it's a bigger plane than two smaller ones in one. I mean, the thing is, we also pledged more money than, other bidders for marketing directly. We want to get out to the Canadian consumer. We've been talking about that. We feel like we have good penetration right here, northern New York, but to fully maximize, we want to take advantage of the million people in Ottawa. And so, our proposal, our internal strategy, unless you have, is to run, intense digital campaigns north of the border.
Good. Anything else, Charlie?
No.
Eric, anything else?
No,
All right. Thank you for coming.
no, thanks for having me and listening to the same presentation, or at least half of it again.
We appreciate it. We do.
And for those that are interested, we brought some hats and t-shirts that Charlie has that he can disseminate if anyone wants to represent Breeze. I made a promise to you for your husband, and I told Charlie he has to set it aside.
I got it.
And if there's not enough, I may or may not have a hookup for more Breeze merch if anyone needs it and wants it, so.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much.
What can I got there? Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I stole the water. Is that okay?
I think we can spread that.
So we could go right into executive session and decide at this point. I think we've had the proposals from both airlines the last couple of weeks. And, I'm sure everyone has had an opportunity to look them over. Obviously, seems like everyone has because of the questions that were asked here. And we could go right in and decide and move that resolution forward. Jen, want to move it? Well, I'm not asking for a vote right now. I'm just
No, I know.
asking, you ready to move it forward?
Absolutely.
Megan?
Definitely.
Dave?
Yep.
Okay, then I'll ask for executive session. We can talk among ourselves and come back into public session with one of the two motions that we have in our packet, one from Breeze and one from SkyWest, and decide which one we would like to bring forward. So I ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
For the discussion of, and I don't have that in front of me, the wording. Jen, can you help me with that?
Just to discuss the employment of a particular person or company.
Thank
What she
you.
said.
That one.
Is there a motion going executive session?
I'll move.
Moved and seconded?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Congratulations.
Chuck them at me. I like it when you just chuck them at me.
Oh,
We got another one?
Okay.
Hey, we're on.
Now?
Just got a text, yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Plattsburgh.
I have one that's 2 months old. And he's already had
My
COVID.
son-in-law wasn't home, so she had to load them all in the van, all 5 of them. Headed to the hospital.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do this or not.
So
I just thought that was very convenient. They gave you a whole bowl to throw at me this time.
Coming July 1st.
I don't know who did that.
I'll make sure there's no candy in it.
already.
I know.
You just see them and it's funny.
We gave them a whole bowl of ammo.
Yeah.
Let me know, Susie, when you're ready.
He started walking at 7.5 months old.
Okay, we are out of executive session. We amended the resolution so we can deal with agenda item H.
Yes, at agenda item H1, approval or support for Breeze Airways proposal to provide essential air service at Onsworth, New York, order 2026-1-20. The United States Department of Transportation Essential Air Service Program, EAS, has issued an order 2026-1-20 requesting proposal to provide essential air service, EAS, at Onsworth, New York. And whereas Breeze Airways, Breeze, has submitted a formal proposal to continue providing scheduled passenger service at Onsworth International Airport, OGS. And whereas the board has reviewed the specific terms of the Breeze Airway proposal, noting the following key benefit to the community: capacity and equipment, the use of 137-seat Airbus A220 aircraft to serve the region; connectivity, seven non-stop round-trip flight per week to Raleigh-Durham International Airport, RDU, providing access to 40 markets across 17 states and 3 countries. Proven performance, current service level shows an average of 65 passengers each way, with over half connecting beyond RDU, a volume nearly double that of previous essential air service carrier in Onsworth. Economic commitment, a commitment is to allocate $50,000 in annual marketing funds to support the OGS routes. And operational reliability, so far they got us a projected completion factor of 99%. The Board of Onsworth Bridge and Port Authority hereby recommends that the United States Department of Transportation select Breeze Airway to provide essential air service at Onsworth International Airport.
Thank you. The resolution states that resolved that the board of the Orangeburg Bridge and Port Authority hereby recommends that United States Department of Transportation select Breeze Airways to provide essential air service at Augsburg International Airport based on the following requested terms. Contract term, a 3-year contract period. Subsidy, an initial annual subsidy of $4,996,757 with a 4% increase per year. Waiver, the board supports the request to waive the right to hold the carrier in beyond the contract end date, recognizing the need for carrier flexibility. Be it further resolved that the executive director is authorized to transmit this recommendation in a copy of this resolution to United States Department of Transportation Essential Air Service Program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jen?
No discussion.
Megan?
I just think that Breeze has been an excellent partner to us. They have provided excellent customer service in the past that they've been with us. And I think they have really shown this community what they can provide as a low-cost carrier. And they continue to grow and provide new routes. And I'm excited to see what they can continue to do.
Thank you. Dave?
I would just add that I'm excited to see that we had 2 really good options And like Megan said, Breeze has grown the business. They've been very flexible. The community seems to be really engaged with them. And I think that's just been fabulous. So I think it's a good thing. Very happy to have two really solid proposals.
I agree. It was nice to have another airline here. Both presented their proposal. The board certainly had opportunity to ask questions of both presenters of each airline. And we have had SkyWest here before, and they are a excellent airline. But in this particular case, I think Breeze, with the partnership we've had with Breeze, they've shown that they listen to us, they come through for us. They're on time and the reliability has been excellent. And we have certainly grown and made some passengers here, up over 32,000 in 2025 when we actually were doing construction on the airport. And Charlie's already guaranteed me that it will be at least 30,000 or more this year. So I think going with Breeze is the right way to go. The one thing I do realize is we will be losing the connection to Washington. However, I think we gain the ability to have different destinations and what Breeze calls Breeze Through, where you can actually stay on the plane and connect with other destinations. And it seems our particular area that people from the North Country and Southeastern Ontario want to go to is warmer spots. And with that, Breeze not only offering EAS, but the direct flights from here to Orlando has certainly added to the number of travelers we're able to serve. So I agree. I think it is best that Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority continue our relationship with Breeze Airlines. Susan, call the roll, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes,
Ms. Whitten,
Yes.
Ms. Pickman,
Yes.
thank you. Now we can go back to presentation and reports. Any committee reports? Nope. Let's go to the financial report.
We are reporting on the month of January. We had $132,491 in operating, $10,234,000 in restricted accounts. We have accounts receivables of $283,000, 81% of that is current. And construction in progress, $27.8 million, which will be moved over fixed assets once the airport is completely done. We have accounts payables, $250,000 and $174,000, which will be reimbursed with grant reimbursements. And then on to the budget to actuals for the month of January. For income, we came in under budgeted amount by $27,000. As you know, bridge revenue has been down for some time. We're at 87% of what we've budgeted. Our budgeted assumption is. Airport revenue was more than what we had budgeted. With fuel sales, we're down. And of course, the event center still new. The bridge expense, all the expenses for our salary expenses, you'll show that we came under budget, but in reality, part of that was all paid out in December. We had a three payroll in December, so some of those January days were covered in that. The airport expenses, we were under budget, but we do have fuel invoices that came in late. The month of January, the fuel expense was $6,169. I have gotten in communication with Ascent World Fuel with the Vice President of Customer Relations, and I believe we now finally have a process where we'll be getting invoiced more frequently and be current in the invoicing, so we won't still lag as we get. Because I know in December, we had, I think, 77,000 in fuel expenses, but it was for like a 3-month period. So we've gotten cut up. I think we've got a good procedure in place with them. Utility expenses, you will see that we were under budget. We found that we were paying sales tax on our utilities. So I went back to National Grid and to our current providers, and I was able to get us a refund for the past 3 years of all the sales tax that we paid. Going forward, we will not be paying sales tax on any of those utilities any longer. Commerce Park, we came in under budget, and as a total, we were under budget for the month of January of $24,873. Anybody have any questions?
Go back to the statement of financial position on the back. On the regular accounts payable, top 7 to 10 vendors. Have any of that been paid since this was recorded?
Yes, most of which has been paid, to my knowledge. Also on Trago Dugan, we have them listed on the payables, but that's really a pass-through. We collect that money from the customers and then we just turn around and pay them.
Right. But the others has pretty much been taken care of, you think, as of this date?
Yes, they have been.
Good, thank you. We'll address the over, under, and bridge revenue when we hear, well, Mr. Lawrence's report. I have no questions. Anyone else? Jen, you good? Anything else? Andrea? Anything else?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move on to bridge traffic report, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically for bridge traffic and then taking into account some of the weather events, everything's been kind of, we're not losing traffic, but we're not making any headway. We're making maybe a couple percentage a month there, but I think some of that has to do with just for this period, the weather had a lot to do with that. So not a whole lot to read into that. Basically more of it's same. And you can see with that, of course, you look at really the number that you look at is loss of revenue, compared to our normal calendar year is, you're heading up toward 100,000 already for 2 months. So I don't know if that loss may be not as, when you get all said and done, it may not be as bad as last year, but okay, take into account what's really happening out there with fuel prices and economies and everything like that. We could, you could see a spike where we're losing, we start losing traffic, just people aren't, taking any kind of trips now. So I would just say be aware of, what the future holds there. It's just so volatile. So any questions on that?
Why do you think there's such a drop in truck traffic? It's like we're off 22%.
I can say is it's the border issues with trade and tariffs. And I don't know the details of all of that, but just as a general rule, I just think there's a lot different alignments of where products go. And, it's just so volatile.
I know it's only 2 months into the year, and there's so much going on. It'd be interesting to see where March and April actually comes out in light of everything that's going on outside of, at the national scene and international. So unfortunately, we may have to wait, as you said, Mr. Lawrence, to see if there's actually something going on or if we really have a trend that's developed since the beginning of 2025. Thank you. Anyone have any questions of Mr. Lawrence? Nope. Charlie, airport activity report?
Yes, for the month of February, I know it's gonna look funny, 36 flights. We got 28 days, so, and again, in planes, 2517. Our flight load's about 51%, which is pretty good on 137 seat. Completion rate still completed high at 97% with 1 canceled flights. On-time performance, that's the one I was gonna bring up a little bit with the 36 flights. There has been incidents where there's ground delays, weather delays, and also incidents where Breeze had mechanical issues on the ground. There's 36 flights. You're seeing the 6 additional flights or 6 rescue flights that they have sent, but they still counts a flight when they land here. Those are the flights that they sent out from Hartford, Connecticut to up here to conduct the flights that was missed the day before. So pretty much what it was is more of a what they call overnight delay till the next morning. Usually a lot of these flights fly out the first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock to go down and then bring the passenger that's down there and bring them back, and then that plane will empty out going back to Hartford. And so that's again, just want to point out for 2 months, we're already at almost 4,000 for the year. Next month, our number is even stronger. In April, spring break, so we're still expecting even higher numbers. Again, very happy to see the numbers, and I'm happy to see the growth, the way it's going.
So you're gonna guarantee me at the end of April, we're gonna have our 10,000?
I will make the promise in April.
Yeah, after I've seen the number.
That was a good one.
Okay, Charlie, that's good. It just shows you, as you said, the flight out of here, how Breeze has done everything they possibly can to, if there's a reason they're not here, to bring in additional flights to get the passengers out of here. And that's something that I'm certainly not used to that we've had in the past. So thanks to Breeze, but already at 4,000 after 2 months is very good. So I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the work that your crew does out here, Charlie, getting the runway ready, and Susie's crew, that the number of passengers that I've seen out here, and yet the airport, the terminal itself is very clean. So you've both done a good job. So
Thank you.
thank you. Any questions of Charlie? No? Susie?
Okay, so February 28th, we recently just had a wine, beer, and food artisan festival. Great positive feedback from vendors. The one that booked with me as well as customers. It was great being able to open up the great room and allowing, like, we had 1,600 people walk through. So it gave a lot of everybody being able to see it. So that was fantastic. And out of that event, because people were able to see the space, we got other bookings from that, such as, like, there's an employee education seminar, which is great for us because one day will be all schools and then another day will be for businesses. Also in discussion is, like, hosting another venue show. It's for, like, Northern Chapter Statewide Senior Citizens, so it's like a health and information fair. That will be another festival for 50 vendors, and they expect around 700 vendor or customers.
Wow.
I do qualify for that one.
It's for seniors.
Before Megan said some comment.
Yeah. So yeah, and then this weekend we have Destiny Reader Psychic Fair, so that's really great as well. So
Good.
we're getting out there. So it's a good time.
Thank you. Any questions of Susie? Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Yeah, so Susie, if someone inquires about rates for the space, the different spaces that are available, are we, or should I be referring them directly to you, or can that information be found on a website somewhere?
No, it's not on a website, but you can, they can directly contact me.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
So that brings up the question, why isn't it on the website?
I can make it happen, for sure, absolutely.
Good. Don't you think, Jen?
I agree 100%. I think, just for the average person thinking, even just a small private event, they would know immediately whether it's within the budget or not. It might help you in the long run.
Sure,
So.
absolutely. Yeah, like I said, it
Good,
would be my pleasure to do that.
good.
Thank you.
And before we leave the airport, I asked Steve if they would put some drawings of the childcare center out here. I don't know about other board members, but I've received a lot of questions from parents in the area asking, so what is it going to offer? What does it look like? What's it all going to be about? So hopefully this will address some of the questions, having this, with 5 or 6 different posters out here, because as we start construction, I'm sure, people are going to have lots of questions, so somebody's going to have to handle that. Probably Susan, then. So that's good, good. Port activity report, James?
So February was a little bit slower than January. We're just shy of 20,000. January was around 34,000 tons loaded and out the door. At month end, we had 22,000 tons left of salt on site. We're going to unload some steel bar, some metal bar from a current customer at some point later this week. And it's a little different from the steel beams, but I just wanted to take that opportunity to thank staff and the board. Last spring, I was able to join our partners, QSL and Adam Johnson, and did a port tour in Canada where they were unloading steel bar from a vessel. So I know it's only 2 bundles, but those trips hold weight, and maybe not today or tomorrow, but here we are less than a year later, able to, put the procedure, that they were doing in Oshawa in place here in Ogdensburg. So
So this is a new product we haven't seen before?
Historically, I'm not sure if we've had it, but I know in my 3.5 years, it's a first for myself. So I'm just thankful to have the opportunity last year to go to other ports and see some of their operations.
Where did it come from and where do we hope it's going to?
I am not sure of the destination.
Depends on whoever the customer.
Yeah, some of
It's
that.
good. It's good to have more cargo down in the port, that's for sure. And like you said, now you've been through unloading things to OMLC, and that's good. And we have about 20,000 tons left.
Correct.
And I see in the weather, Charlie, that we're going to get more snow, so good for the airline. And, we'll have less salt.
Yeah, the Seaway opens the 22nd of March.
Oh.
We don't have anything lined up for April, May that I've heard of so far, but obviously we're ready for anything that comes our way.
So the ice is pretty much cleared out of the locks, then, eh?
About 3 o'clock, 3:30 today, the tug was going, was headed east up the St. Lawrence, so starting to come alive.
Good. Anyone have any questions of James?
Just a quick one on, I think you last time mentioned some grain stuff going on. Is that still going on or?
As far as the
We're
load,
using the rail or some load out, what was going on there?
yeah, so current customer asked about our capabilities of receiving grain via truck, whether it be put into flat storage or direct loaded from the truck to our conveyor to load rail cars. And we had conversations with them and gave them a ballpark for them to give their upper management for costing purposes, and we haven't heard back.
Nothing's come back.
Anything else? Jen, any questions of James? Megan, you good?
No.
All right, move on. Anthony, your report, please.
Yeah, so the building, starting with building occupancy report, things continue to remain steady, which in this kind of commercial climate is good news for occupancy. Over the past months, been spending a lot of time with Steve on the executive director succession program, which has been tremendously helpful. The chairman, executive director, myself, met with Tom DiNapoli this past month in February, which was good visibility for the authority. We also met with Assemblyman Michael Cashman to really discuss the cross-border situation, tariffs impact, and things of that nature.
And he is,
He represents the Plattsburgh area.
and he is chairman of,
The U.S.-Canadian Relations Board in Albany.
good.
We've been having a lot of meetings regarding the outstanding grants, in particular the Merit grant, which is on the agenda for approval tonight. Looking to put out for bid over the next month or two for that project, which is exciting, to see that taking off. And in the Commerce Park, Bluebird Cafe had their limited menu opening on February 16th, and they are now currently open, which is great to see, and have a spot to go in the Commerce Park.
Do they have a steak
Their bris-
sandwich
their
yet?
brisket.
Brisket.
Oh,
Close.
there you go. All right, it gets a thumbs up from,
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, the other day.
yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh, very good.
Good to
You
hear.
should get one, David. Very good.
What a relief. Sam has a place to go.
And I can get a tuna fish sandwich on Fridays.
There you go.
Eye on the place.
You're winning.
That's what Mr. Chairman.
That's it. Any questions of James? Anybody want to ask him if he's ready to back out of being executive director? Not yet, eh? Okay.
We haven't
Take a
received
look.
his resignation letter.
Take a look.
I was gonna say, Steve will tackle him first.
Yeah.
All that press.
Too late now.
Got that picture that's 10 years old?
You're not wrong.
Mr. Lawrence, any unfinished business?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's move into business items. General administration, agenda item A1.
Agenda item A1, approval of aerial boom lift rental with Haggett excavating. An aerial boom lift is necessary to support safety training, building maintenance activities, and the biannual bridge inspection. The training is part of a permanent safety grant that was awarded to the Augsburg Bridge and Port Authority. Renting the equipment will allow the organization to safely and efficiently perform these required tasks without the expense of purchasing equipment. A breakdown of the quotes received is below. Haggett excavation, $14,200. Herc rental, $15,524. United Rentals, $14,600. Staff reviewed the details of this purchase and recommends purchasing the service from Haggett Excavation. Total cost not to exceed $14,200.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I would just like to add, I did not mention this is a 7-month period.
I was gonna ask, how long is the rental for?
I see that I forgot that, but that will cover, yeah, I would leave it at that. Utilization. Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Moving second. Any further discussion? Was this a local firm?
Yeah, Norwood area.
No, oh, good, good. Okay. Susan, call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Ms. Whitten.
Yes.
Ms. Bickman.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Agenda item C1.
Okay, approval of a proposal from CNS Companies for construction and design services for the Commerce Park Campus Child Care Facility Project. Whereas the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority is advancing the development of a 15,000 square foot child care facility on the Commerce Park campus in Ogdensburg, New York. And whereas the proposed child care facility is designed to provide approximately 125 child care slots and serve as a regional model for testing and implementing remedial and support programs benefiting children, parents, and area businesses. And whereas in April 2024, the OBPA Board of Directors approved a proposal from CNS Companies to provide project architectural, engineering, and design services for the child care facility project, which services have since been completed and paid for with OBPA funds. And whereas the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, requires the OBPA to have a construction design and administration services agreement in place prior to full obligation of grant funding for the project. And whereas CNS Companies has submitted a proposal to provide construction design and administration services for the project in the amount of $170,650. Whereas funding for these services is anticipated to be provided through the revised project budget requests currently under development. And whereas execution of the agreement with CNS Companies shall be solely dependent upon OBPA's ability to secure the additional funding necessary to advance the project. Staff recommends approval of this proposal with CNS Companies.
Thank you. Motion?
So moved.
Been seconded. Any further discussion? It's unfortunate that the two members of that child care committee are not here tonight. I'm sure they would be more than happy with the fact that we're moving this forward. Susan, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitten.
Yes.
Ms. Bickman.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Yes. Agenda item C2.
Agenda item C2, approval of tenant entrance door replacement. The tenant entry door at Commerce Park Building 6 is in need of repair and no longer meets energy efficiency or aesthetic standards. The replacement of the entry door is necessary to maintain functionality, thermal efficiency, and appearance of the property. The following bids were received for the project: Northern Glass, $9,093.60. Colton Glass, $8,450. The scope of work for this upgrade includes demolition of existing door, preparation of the opening, installing new door and related hardware, as well as ensuring the function of all components to complete the project. Staff reviewed the details of this purchase and recommends purchasing the service from Colton Glass and Mirror Inc. for the amount of $8,450.
Thank you. Motion? Second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
We recently replaced the door in another building.
Yeah, the administrative building.
Had you gone there like me, you would have seen it.
Are we missing the nice
Right? No.
red tape?
Yeah, Dave, it's not done yet, so.
Got to see it. We got to see it.
No further discussion. Susan, call the roll.
Ms. Bickman. Yes. Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Ms. Whitten.
Thank you. Agenda item D1.
Okay, approval of grant offer PIN 7903.21 with the New York State Department of Transportation to construct terminal renovation and expansion. The New York State Department of Transportation, NYSDOT, is requesting that the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority receive board approval to execute a NYSDOT grant offer PIN 7903.21. In anticipation of the NYSDOT grant offer, it is requested that the board approve the executive director to sign fiscal year 2025 grant application AIP grant offer for New York State match to the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority in the amount of $7,422 to construct terminal renovation and expansion as listed below. Project description: expand the existing terminal by 1,505 square feet, including a 1,287 square foot partition of the canopy out of 1,505 square feet, phase 3 construction. Financing participation is as follows. Federal Aviation Administration contributes 95%, which equates to $282,000. New York State Department of Transportation, 2.5% is $7,422. And Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority, 2.5%, $7,421, for a total of $296,843. Staff requests board approval to accept this AIP grant offer for New York State match agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation upon receipt of grant offer.
Their motion.
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I just want to point out, these three, D1, D2, and D3, we've already paid on behalf of New York State. So when we get this grant, this is our money. It'll be coming back to us. So when you see the 74, the different monies involved, that's money that will be coming back to us because we paid that. And now it's really just getting the paperwork there and getting our money back. So just, that's the overall reason for this.
I was gonna say, how do we pay $1 less than the state?
Frame it.
Maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
I know.
All right, Susan?
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Whitten,
Yes.
Ms. Pickman,
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item D2.
Yes, agenda item D2, approval of grant offer PIN 7903-22 with New York State Department of Transportation to conduct a hazard assessment and management plan. The New York State Department of Transportation, NYS DOT, is requesting that the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority to receive or approval to execute a New York State Department of Transportation grant offer PIN 7903.22. In addition, in anticipation of the New York State Department of Transportation's grant offer, it is requested that the board approve the executive director to sign the fiscal year 2025 grant application, AIP grant offer for New York State match to the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority in an amount of $4,768 to conduct a hazard assessment management plan as listed below. Project's description: conduct an airport wildlife hazard assessment, develop a wildlife hazard management plan. Financing participation is as follows. Federal Aviation Administration at 95% at $181,174. New York State Department of Transportation 2.5% at $4,768. Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority 2.5% at $4,768, bringing the total to $190,710. Staff requests board approval to accept this AIP grant offer for New York State match agreement with New York State Department of Transportation upon receipt of grant offer.
Thank you. Motion.
So moved.
Okay. And seconded. Any discussion? Susan, call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Whitten,
Yes.
Ms. Pickman,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Agenda item C3.
Approval of grant offer PIN 7903.23 with the New York State Department of Transportation to construct terminal renovation and expansion. The New York State Department of Transportation, NYSDOT, is requesting that the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority receive board approval to execute a NYSDOT grant offer PIN 7903.23. In anticipation of the NYSDOT grant offer, it is requested that the board approve the executive director to sign the AIP fiscal year 2025 grant application, AIP grant offer for New York State match to the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority in the amount of $12,552 to construct terminal renovation and expansion as listed below. Project description: expand the existing terminal by 1,505 square feet, including a 218 square foot portion of the existing canopy and the ticketing lobby, screening, and baggage claim areas, Phase 4 construction. Financing participation is as follows. Federal Aviation Administration at 95%, which is $476,968. New York State Department of Transportation at 2.5%, $12,552. And the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority, 2.5%, $12,552 for a grand total of $502,072. Staff requests board approval to accept this AIP grant offer for New York State match agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation upon receipt of grant offer.
Thank you. Motion
So moved.
made and seconded. Any discussion? Susan, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Pickman?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes. Agenda item E1.
Authorization to execute MARAD fiscal year 2023 PIDP grant agreement, Port of Ogdensburg Terminal Expansion Project. Whereas the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority, hereinafter referred to as the Authority, has been awarded a grant under the U.S. Department of Transportation Maritime Administration's fiscal year 2023 Port Infrastructure Development Program in the amount of $5,107,649 for the Port of Ogdensburg Terminal Expansion Project. And whereas the project consists generally of an approximately 435 linear foot expansion of the Authority's main dock terminal, installation of a mooring dolphin system, shoreline stabilization improvements, and dredging to establish a new berthing area immediately adjacent to the expanded dock structure. And whereas the total eligible project cost is $18,687,564, comprised of $5,107,649 in PIDP federal funds and $13,579,915 in non-federal funds. And whereas the grant agreement establishes a period of performance ending March 31st of 2029, and whereas the Maritime Administration has issued a finding of no significant impact, thereby satisfying federal environmental review requirements. And whereas execution of said grant agreement is necessary for the Authority to obligate and access the awarded federal funds and to proceed with the implementation of the terminal expansion project in accordance with federal requirements.
Thank you. Motion?
Second.
Made and seconded. Well, we've already passed the PLA for this project, correct?
It's being updated. The board approved that a couple of months ago.
Right.
And we've gotten them the information, and I believe it's at least probably a month away.
Okay.
And then we'll have to vote on the results.
Sure. Okay, Susan, call the roll, please.
Ms. Pickman?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes,
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
thank you. I believe we have another H.
H2. H2.
Let me get the H2. Getting there. Okay, then item H2.
Okay, approval of proposal with Sealer Engineering for childcare facility project. The Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority is advancing plans for the construction of a 15,000 square foot childcare facility on the Commerce Park campus in Ogdensburg, New York. The proposed facility is intended to provide approximately 125 childcare slots to help address regional workforce needs and support economic development within the North Country. As the project continues to advance towards construction, the authority requires professional services to assist with specialized labor and project coordination matters associated with the project. The authority wishes to consider the application of a project labor agreement, PLA, to assist in these objectives and consistent with Section 222 of New York State labor law. Sealer Engineering, PC, has previously performed similar services for the authority and possesses specialized expertise related to project labor agreements and project coordination on public infrastructure projects. Due to their familiarity with authority projects and their demonstrated experience in this area, Sealer Engineering has submitted a proposal to provide these services for the child care facility project. Sealer Engineering has submitted a proposal dated March 5th, 2026 to provide the requested services for a lump sum fee of $13,200. Funding for these services will be provided through the child care facility project budget, contingent upon the authority securing the additional funding necessary to proceed with the project.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Susan, call the roll, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Whitten,
Yes.
Ms. Stickman.
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing else on the agenda. Is there anything else, Mr. Lawrence?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Any concluding comments from any board members and or authority staff? No? Any comments or questions?
I would like to thank Steve Lawrence for his professionalism. I know I pushed his buttons a couple of
You can state your name so she has it for the record.
David Knight.
Thank you.
Again, I'd just like to thank you.
Well, David, thank you very much. That's quite a surprise. I appreciate that. That really comes as a surprise. I mean, we've had our differences, but we've also done some pretty good work together.
Yeah.
You know, at times, you were the only one out there keeping your head about you and at least trying to do something. And, you know, and we share a lot of grown-up history together.
Yes. Yes, I got a smart comment I'd like to say, but.
Still recording.
Coming from the labor union, you've done well.
Oh,
Good.
fine. I take that as a compliment.
Well, thank you for your comment. I think you have the same reaction many of us do. I'm certainly sorry to see Steve leave. He's,
Yeah, but I thought this would be maybe his last one, so I thought I'd get here because
oh, good.
who knows when we get to meet again.
That's right. And you waited all this time, so thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it. I'm sure he does.
Thanks.
Good.
Okay, take care.
I got another question, got one more question.
Sure.
Who runs the rail line?
Who runs it?
Well, who oversees it?
Ultimately, we do.
Do you have any old equipment that you own and you could donate to Lisbon Museum maybe?
That actually came up last meeting.
Yeah, but it wasn't for the list.
I'm sorry.
No, was there something you're looking at, maybe?
There's something in Lisbon there down by the milk plant. It's, I think it's lifts the rail and moves it over maybe. and-
Well, generally, you guys know more details about some of that stuff than I
Yeah,
do.
I don't know how we get it.
No,
We can get it out.
yeah, but if you could give some details and just send something to us, and we put it, you know, we look at it and maybe sound through the bucket. Right, we've done that in the past, and it's for the Lisbon Museum. We've donated stuff before.
Who's the guy that?
Oh, Jim.
Jim, yes.
Oh,
Jim Armstrong?
Jimmy
Jim
Armstrong.
Armstrong.
Yeah,
See, he's the rail guy?
yeah.
Yeah, okay, I just got his phone number.
Okay.
Anything to do with it?
He could tell you a little bit more about it,
Okay.
but if you,
Okay.
if the people you're involved with probably know, they always know more details about that stuff than I
All
do.
right.
No, we would certainly entertain that.
Yeah.
If it's, used for the town of Lisbon,
Right.
absolutely.
Hope to see you
Okay,
around.
Thank you.
thanks,
All
Stephen.
right, our next meeting is scheduled for April the 9th. Quick turnaround. What's up with that, Susan?
I'll be calling, don't worry.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
send a poll.
there's a lot going on in April. In fact, we'll be gone on the 14th, is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, any other,
I think that is that.
Going on the 10th.
did I miss something? Jen, anything else before we close the meeting?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
What about our legal attorney? Anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much.
All right,
Thanks, Jen.
thank you. In light of that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And seconded
I'll second.
by Jen? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. We stand adjourned. Thank you. It's 8 o'clock. That's
This has
been
got to
a
be
long
one of the
meeting,
records
so
for us.
thanks.
Thank you, guys.